Angelita leans in close. Gordo, why do you think nobody wants to pitch to Caballo? You can't win against Caballo. If you strike him out, you'll make him look bad. Then he'll get you back. Gordo is not listening. Angelita, this is baseball. It's a game, he says, and smiles at her. I choose to read my novel to my students because I feel that they get plenty of opportunities throughout the day in content reading, such as social studies, science, and math. But with a novel, especially one that, even though it's at grade level, may be above the level of several of my scholars, it's really important for them to hear what it's like when somebody reads it accurately and with expression and gives the characters the correct intonation. If I were having scholars read that aloud, I feel that they may lose something in the translation, particularly because, as with all classes, my class is not all entirely at grade level, and this way all scholars have the access to the novel that they need. So we've just read chapter 13 of the novel 90 Miles to Havana, and before we move on to our activity, we need to do some review to get prepared for our lesson today. I brought out an old poster from a couple of weeks ago when we learned to cite textual evidence to support conclusions. At that time, we came up with our language objective, which we're going to review together right now. If you'll please read this aloud with me. Ready, begin.
I will quote.
Although the novel is not a direct part of the RCD unit, we do use the novels to address the RCD unit. So, for instance, one of the big topics is being able to cite evidence and write an opinion paper based on that. So, throughout the daily instruction, they're often asked to cite their evidence or to form an opinion and support that with evidence from the text. Each of you will be receiving a separate poster. Your posters are not the same. You do not get to compare them yet. Please keep an eye on your poster only. I need team captains to come pick up a poster. I do consider DOK levels when I make the questions for the groups. I tend to, if it's going to be an activity that the scholars are working on independently and I'm acting only as a facilitator, keep it at a level 2 to level 3. Level 4 requires significantly more intense research, a lot more time, and a lot more discussion.
His uncle gets shot by the army. Oh yeah, that was kind of okay. They shot him in the desert and they tied him to the tree, right? And then they shot him and then they untied him and then they buried him and then they left all the people to die there in the heat. Okay, so what if I put, they both have difficulties with the people that they're staying with? Yeah.
My scholars are just like any other group in the district. I actually do not group according to academic abilities. Many teachers put a high, a medium, and a low scholar at a table. I, however, throw that entirely out the window and focus completely on communication skills. I look at the various different ways that they collaborate. I think about who is more likely to need to be drawn out when answering questions and who is more likely to do that drawing out. And I try to put complementary personality and collaboration styles at each table. Salva has a dangerous life where he wanders instead of going into the bushes. Okay. Who came up with that one?
All of us.
All of you together? Okay. Can you find any phrases in A Long Walk to Water, or I'm sorry, any sentences or paragraphs or portions in the actual text that support this? Because this is your theory. Now support that with evidence.
I think my theory is that, remember the teacher said, don't go back to your families, go into the bushes.
Oh, I need a high five for that one. That is a really good memory. Okay, so now what you have to do is find that in the text. Find that section. Did that happen early in the novel, in the center of the novel, or very late toward the end? While they're working in these groups, my job as a teacher is really more of facilitation. I walk around, obviously making sure that all groups stay on task, but if you have chosen an interesting enough topic and give them creative enough questions, they do tend to stay on task because they want to be able to discuss this and come up with interesting, unique answers. Novel Pack is a series of questions and activities that I put together as we read the novel. Sometimes I'll do one where it's the entire novel from beginning to end. Often that's a little overwhelming though. So for instance, with this novel, I do 5 chapters at a time. There are a series of comprehension questions that address pretty much the first 3 levels of DOK. The novel packs are largely independent, so they can be worked on throughout the day. I do also provide time, structured time during the day where they need to work on it. But it's one of those sort of early finisher activities of, if you have already finished your science, it's great to be able to pull out your novel pack, pull out your novel, and know that independently, or with just a little assistance from a partner, you can easily answer those comprehension questions. Novel packs can come from a variety of sources. For the most part, I make my own. As I read the novel, I usually read the novel before I present it to scholars, and I write questions as I go. Just what am I thinking aloud, and what sort of predictions do I make? What connections can I draw between the characters? Whatever occurs to me as I read, I sort of jot down, and later those turn into the comprehension questions and the activities and, the timelines or whatever I'm having them work on. Before we begin our presentations, let's talk about what it looks like to be a good audience member and what it looks like to be a good presenter. Are there any suggestions of what it would look like to be good at being an audience member? How would an audience member react? Jessie? It's important to first establish expectations. If a scholar doesn't have a clear understanding of the end result, they're not going to have any ability to plan on how to get there. Basically, it provides them with a roadmap of where they're going with that particular activity. So before a presentation, I always ask them to give ideas of what an excellent presentation looks like, what we should be striving for.
Caballo says no one's here to stop me from being a big shot, and you better remember that.
Okay, so when Larry Dunn is caught being a bully by Byron, and Byron intercedes, he reacts in a very certain way. You said he doesn't respond, he just says, I ain't, and he's not going to react to Byron. Well, when Caballo gets caught in a position where he's bullying by Alquilino, does he react the same way by being calm, or does he react differently, and how?
He acts differently because he hits back.
So Larry Dunn reacts without violence and Caballo reacts with violence to being called out for bullying. After they've done their presentation, we do a debrief where we spend a few minutes just talking about what went very right and what maybe could use some work in the future. Now I want you to identify the one thing where you thought, ooh, I really needed some more work on that one. So show me the number of the one you think you needed more work. That can be our focus for our next presentation activity. Oh, I see the same number showing up amongst most people here. I'm looking at numbers 3 and 4. Make eye contact and do not read. So I'm actually going to circle these because by the next time we are presenting, I want to see this really solid, making eye contact with your audience and not just standing up here to read your poster. That's what a really good presentation will look like. Although teachers all use novels to teach, it doesn't always look the same in every classroom. I really just have taken it and sort of streamlined and expected more from my scholars and given them those expectations. If they have the expectations, they will rise to the occasion.
No, he's mean to Gordo. He's cruel to Gordo. Kids, new kids. He's cruel to new kids. Oh yeah, he's cruel to new kids.